Late night television is an American tradition, and I'm British, but hear me out. Late night television fascinates me. The way it's such a routine yet odd American tradition that's rarely seen in a widespread nature like that across the globe. You've got hosts like Jimmy Fallon who listen to networks, make the show close to network wishes, and without being mean, pander to the people. It doesn't make them any less of a host, it doesn't make them any less of a comedian. But then, you've got people who take network criticisms and ignore them entirely.
I went across to Switzerland where all the yodelers meet to try to learn to yodel with my yodelody.
Craig Ferguson is a Scottish and, since 2008, Scottish-American comedian. He first rose to fame in the US in his role as the English boss Nigel Wick in The Drew Carey Show. However, little did he know, his career was just beginning. He began hosting The Late Late Show on January 3rd, 2005, and for the first 2 months, he followed his predecessor's format for reading monologues with 5 to 10 jokes off cue cards and ad-libbing in between, and then he noticed that that stuff in between was actually funnier, and then him and his writers effectively stopped writing jokes. And from 2008, Ferguson began ripping up his note cards for interviews at the beginning of every single interview. It truly signalled to his audience how he believed that this network management of conversation was not needed at all.
Do you know this joke?
Great joke, man.
All right. If you want... God's sake, man, be a professional. If you want something, what is it? If you want something said, ask a man. If you want something done, ask a woman. If you want absolutely nothing said or done, ask a cat.
But what made Craig so special? His show was full of absurdity, sketch comedy, and it thrived on the unrehearsed, and it thrived on the spontaneous, the unplanned. It was just a masterpiece to watch it unfold so naturally on the screen. But what he truly thrived on was his own hate of this format, and his desire to push the limitations of the very format that he's bought into. And he's had so many running gags, including "What did we learn on the show tonight, Craig?" where he put his feet upon the desk and summarised the previous hour of TV.
What did we learn on the show tonight, Craig?
He was one of the first late night hosts to read emails and tweets every show, and they always have very absurd jingles.
Bulls.
Play the Tweety.
He had themed weeks such as Magic Week, which it turns out later he would state that he doesn't even like magic, but if you want to hear why, then watch his special tickle fight. Yep, that's the name of it. Shark Week was also on, and Crab Week. He had Dear Aquaman, where he dressed as a superhero and gave advice, and lots of longer sketches which were used gradually less and less and less as the show aged. He seeked out to do what people wouldn't expect from late night television. He made fun of its tropes such as late night sidekicks, and on that note,
a deluxe Mersey beat wig, but it was a size too big. What confidence in my new built-up shoes, so smart for winter or summer, undetectable in normal everyday use. Look out, there's a monster coming.
Craig's robot sidekick, Jeff Peterson, debuted on April 5th, 2010, and it was created by former Mythbuster Grant Imahara and voiced by Josh Robert Thompson.
Oh, Jeff, you ready?
Yeah.
Oh, here's a new bit.
While Jeff began with pre-recorded phrases, Josh voiced him live in studio for almost every episode since late June in 2011, and that included the episodes filmed in Paris and Scotland.
An idiot. What the hell is going on over there?
Ferguson said himself that the robot is his own metaphor for deconstructing the dead art form of the late-night talk show, and that he selected the name Jeff because of its commonness. I mean, he jokingly refers to Jeff as an appliance, who's being used because the show's small budget does not permit a typical and living sidekick or band. But as the years progressed, mainly due to Thompson's amazing performances, even Ferguson would admit that Jeff Peterson came to fully embody the very sidekick cliche that he intended to mock.
Who's out of the door?
Secretariat, the pantomime horse, debuted on October 11th of 2010. It was originally a joke reference to Disney's Secretariat, and then by 2011 he was a regular on the show. He even made appearances on Letterman's Late Show and Live with Regis and Kelly. And during his tenure, he had various puppets. Yes, puppets, you heard me. Who he'd frequently used for cold opens, sketches, and he even hosted his 1000th episode as his crocodile puppet Wavy Ranchero.
Hey, everybody, what to do, everybody? Welcome back to the big 1000 show, alright.
And trust me, that is something to behold, watching a crocodile host a late-night talk show. And then from 2010, he even began doing funny skits and activities to end interviews. These included, but are not limited to, mouth organ, where Craig would play harmonica with the guests briefly, and anyone who could actually play would be awarded the golden mouth organ. Also, it was won 2 times by audience members. There's fruit, where he offers a guest fruit, and if they pick a coconut, because out of this basket of exotic fruits he has, he'll split the coconut and drink the milk with them. Whatever you want to do. And then you've got throw frisbees at the horse. It is exactly what it sounds like. Haggis in a TARDIS, also known as Touch My Haggis, where he offered a guest the option to touch a vegetarian haggis supplied by English author Neil Gaiman, which had been stuffed into the model TARDIS that sat on his desk. This is absurd. But his most famous bit was Awkward Pause, where he and a guest would act out an awkward pause together. Because this was funny, it was absurd, like everything else, but it gave you a moment to think about the format. It gave the guest a moment to reflect on this format. As a comedian, he was revolutionary. But for late night as a whole, he brought art and honest conversation back into late night television. Something that you rarely see apart from the odd personality do. January 30th, 2006. He eulogized his father, who died the previous day, and this was his first Emmy nomination. February 19th, 2007. Craig announced he would do no Britney Spears jokes, and he said that comedy should have a certain amount of joy in it, and that it shouldn't include attacking the vulnerable. He references 15 years of sobriety and the struggle he had with addiction and how it almost ended in suicide.
I want to change it a bit. So tonight, no Britney Spears jokes, and here's why. Here's exactly why. Britney Spears. No, it's true. Wait. I'm not doing that. Britney, listen, when the kind of weekend she had, she was checking in out of rehab, she was shaving her head, getting tattoos. That's what she was doing this weekend. This Sunday, I was 15 years sober. So I looked at her weekend, and I looked at my own weekend, and I thought, you know, I'd rather have my weekend. But what she's going through reminds me of what I was doing. It's an anniversary, you start to think about it. It reminds me of where I was 15 years ago when I was living like that.
December 8th, 2008. Ferguson remembered his mother who died on the 1st of December that year, while his show was on break. He told stories about his mother, and how he felt after he'd returned from his mother's funeral in Scotland. During the monologue, as he recounted his father's death nearly 3 years earlier and spoke of his parents being back together in death, he became emotional, to the verge of tears, and cut to commercial. And prior to the break, he mentioned that his mother wanted the hymn "Jesus Loves Me" sung at her funeral because that was the only hymn to which everyone knew the words. And it was truly a special moment for television. It was such a personal moment that you could never replicate. March 4th, 2009, arguably his most famous moment like this. He dedicated his entire show to his guest, Archbishop Desmond Tutu. The cold open and the monologue featured a brief history of South Africa and apartheid. The show, this was a daring time to do something off-brand for him like this. It was a week of change. 2 days after this episode, Jimmy Fallon would start hosting Late Night with Jimmy Fallon. And rightfully so. March 31st, 2010, he was awarded a Peabody Award for Broadcasting Excellence in News and Entertainment. And on February 18th, 2012, he celebrated 20 years of sobriety, which he also acknowledged on Twitter by posting, "You're welcome, law enforcement agencies." And there's many other events like this throughout the show's history. He truly turned an American tradition into something absurd, something awesome, amazing, and something which we will never see again. There will never be a man like this on late night television. To many, he is almost unheard of, but to those who've watched or enjoyed his show or anything he's created for a short amount of time, he's a legend, he's an innovator, and he truly thinks outside the box. Like in my last video, which you can watch if you click the card on the top right, I'm going to leave you with a short clip.
But it has, I think, what I hope we've done is maybe trying to, maybe art is a very grand word, but what I was trying to do here, and what I think that we've managed to do here, is make something that wasn't here before. So, in that sense... Take that! Shows that I've got real entertainment things.